everyone, I'm Holly from Hand Printed. In this video I'm going to show you how to create a blind embossing using a carved piece of lino. Blind embossing means that we're not using any ink at all. So the design is created by raised areas of paper that are pushed into the lino. We're going to put it through an etching press. There is a difference between embossing and debossing. Embossing is when you have a raised area sticking out of a piece of paper, so your area is raised, and debossing is where it's pushed into your paper. I'll show you the difference at the end, but here we are creating an embossing. I'm going to start off with a piece of grey traditional hessian backed lino. You can use lots of different sheets, soft cut, easy carve, something like that for this technique as well, but I find that the grey traditional lino works particularly well. I'm going to use a set of these Japanese lino and wood cutting tools. We have these sets on the website and they work beautifully well, but any lino cutting tools that you've got will work well. I'm going to draw onto my lino with this pencil. It's a permanent white pencil. Again, we have them on the website. And the reason I'm going to use this is that any drawing that I make won't show up on my paper because I'm printing without ink. I don't want any pencil marks or pen lines or carbon paper lines or anything to come through. So I want my paper to be completely clean. So I'm going to use this white pencil to draw my design today. Right at the beginning of this stage, we need to think differently to when we're normally carving a lino. When you're carving Linocut, the areas that you carve away aren't going to print and the areas left behind will ink. And we need to change our mindset a little for an embossing, because any area that we take away with our Linocut tools are going to be the areas that are raised on our paper. So that's going to be the positive design. So we're not carving away the negative space this time, we're carving in the positive details of the print. You'll see more what I mean with the end results, but we need to think differently to how you normally would with a piece of lino. So now I've got my design, I'm ready to carve. Any areas that I carve away are going to rise out of the paper. I've got my set of Japanese wood cutting tools here, it's this set. And I'm mostly going to use my small U tool for nice curved, even channels. I'm also going to use my V tool a little. As ever, remember to hold the tool in your hand, not like a pencil. I like to place my forefinger on the top of the blade, but you might have it in a slightly different position, and make sure that your other hand is behind the tool and not in front. When making curves, it's easier to rotate the lino instead of your hand, so you're not cutting towards yourself. It usually has a little bit more control. Here I've got my finished lino. I've tried to make this area quite low and reasonably flat. It doesn't matter too much, but I don't want any peaks sticking up too much because they'll show in the embossing. Usually it doesn't matter with lino too much, but I need to be a little bit flatter with this. I've got my lines carved in here, so they should all emboss nicely too. The next thing you want to do is soak your paper. You normally wouldn't necessarily soak paper for lino, but soaking the paper helps to soften it, and it will help to press into all these lines and around the edges of our lino. So soaking paper really helps for doing embossing. So I've got some Snowden 300 DSM cartridge paper, which is one of the printmaking papers that we sell on the website. Got it soaking in a tray of water, and I want to make it damp. You can experiment with different soaking times for your paper. It will depend on the paper that you have, but it'll also give you slightly different results. So have an experiment with different lengths of time for soaking your paper. And then I'm going to head over to the etching press. Now I'm here with our etching press. As usual, I'm using our abba geared etching press. We have these on the website if you'd like to get your hands on one, but this will work with all kinds of etching presses. I've got this one set up with a blanket and also a set of lino runners, which is just 2 long strips of lino that go alongside. With this kind of press, you need the runners if you're printing with lino to be able to drive the plate through the press, but not all etching presses need that, so just work with whichever one you've got. So I've got on my bed, I'm just going to put a few sheets of paper underneath because I want the this lino to be a little higher than the lino runners, but I still want it to roll through the press quite smoothly. As ever, I've got a registration sheet. So this is just a piece of paper the same size as my printing paper with the size of my lino drawn on. This is just so that I can see where to put my lino, where to put my paper, and I know that everything is going to be straight and in the center. So my registration sheet goes down first, and then my lino goes face up. And then a sheet of blotted, dampened paper. I've got the pressure tighter than I normally would for printing onto lino. Usually when you're printing on lino, you want the roller to nicely skim over the top of your lino, picking up that ink, but this time I actually wanted to press it into it. And that's why it's useful to have the blankets, because you get that little bit of squish. I wanted to push the paper into the gaps of the lino because that's what's going to create the emboss. So it might get a little stiff when you're rolling it over your lino. This one did. Then you can peel up your paper to reveal your print. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky to see on camera, but if I hold it in the right light, you should be able to see. I've got lovely plate marks like you would on an etching. So that's, this is debossed, where it's pushed the lino into it. And then I've got the lovely embossed areas here. So I've got my jug half full, my water droplets, and then my ripples at the bottom here. You can see on the back where it's debossed, but the edges are slightly softer, less defined on this side than they are on the front, which is the embossed side. You can combine this technique with inking as well if you want to. You don't have to do a completely blind emboss. You can combine elements of this with a Linocut that's inked, and that can be a really nice way of adding something a little extra to your prints. Everything that you need for this technique you'll be able to find on our website, where there's also lots of other projects, videos, products, everything that you need. Happy printing!